None of them have made an NCAA finals appearance in all of their time. Who has the most to prove between Alex Marinelli, Ryan Deakin, or Sebastian Rivera? Really, who has the most to prove? And you may be wondering why Marinelli, Deakin, and Rivera. Well, here's why. It's because each of them was ranked number one or seeded number one going into the NCAA tournament at some point, but never won a title. And there are actually a lot of guys that have had this happen to them. And actually, what's more interesting about these three is none of them have made an NCAA finals appearance in all of their time. Now, there are other guys. Miles Amin, same thing. Dayton Fix, although he has made a finals appearance. Hayden Hidley was seeded number one time. And I do actually plan to do a whole article about this on FancoWrestling.com. Like, if you haven't checked out that, I do highly recommend you checking out FancoWrestling.com. And before we get to breaking down each of these, I do have to ask you, like, is it difficult for you to find things out about the upcoming season? Maybe if you're following Fanco Wrestling, maybe it's not that difficult, but maybe it's just difficult to find everything together in one place, like the rankings, like where guys are ranked, what dual teams are ranked, what quick stats on the top 25 wrestlers. Well, luckily for you, coming out in the next month, Fanco Wrestling is going to be releasing the College Wrestling Preview Guide, and you're going to want to check this out. It's available for pre-order right now. Down in the description below, you can check out, but this is something that you're going to want to read for the upcoming season. It's going to give you so much info. So let's break down. Who is the most to prove? Which wrestler has the most to prove out of these three? So let's talk about Sebastian Rivera, who's seeded number one 2 times in his collegiate career, 2019 and 2020. Last year he wasn't because he had that loss at Big Tens to Nick Lee. So, and also Jaden Ironman's in the way. So, although Sebastian Rivera is a top guy in the NCAA, like just in general, like he's not quite, he wasn't there last year. So, both times that he was seeded number one, he actually won a Big Ten title. He's beaten multiple NCAA champs. Spencer Lee, Roman Bravo Young. Like, he is a top guy. So, he has so much to prove. Like I said, 2020 was taken from him and all these guys. Who knows what would have happened then? Being the number one seed, maybe he would have won the NCAA title. I mean, that could have happened. We don't know what would have happened. 2021, like I said, he wasn't the number one. He was the number 3 seed. And he ended up losing to Nick Lee in the semis and then ended up losing to Tariq Wilson in the consies. Now, the pros about him as far as like, and I'm going to tell you, like, flat out who I think has the most to prove. But, like, why would he or wouldn't he have most to prove? The thing is, like, he's already a 3-time All-American, right? He's beaten multiple NCAA champions. So, he's proven himself. The New Jersey boy has proven himself. He just hasn't been able to get over the semis hump. 2-time semifinals, just hasn't been able to get over that hump. Maybe this is the year to do it. Speaking of guys who just also haven't been able to get over the hump, former teammate of Sebastian Rivera, Ryan Deakin, who's also seeded number 1 seed 2 times in his collegiate career. He had a great redshirt freshman year, a great sophomore year, and really, to me, his true breakout year was in 2020 whenever he beat Hayden Hidley at the Cliff Keen Las Vegas and David Carr. And the crazy thing is, like, yes, I say that's his breakout year, but he All-American the year before that when he placed 6th in 2019. He's just one of those guys that doesn't have a lot of attention on him, doesn't really spark anything, good, bad, and I say that in the best possible way. Like, there are some guys, that like to run their mouths on social media and get out there, do crazy stuff on the mat. He's not one of those guys. He goes in there, he does his job, he wins, and that's why I think, like, 2020 was the true breakout year for him. When he had the undefeated year, he was number 1 heading into NCAAs. He kept that streak going into 2021 whenever he was the number 1 seed again. He won 30 straight matches from that time, from his last loss, all the way until this recent NCAA semifinals against Jesse De La Vecchia. Whenever, yes, he did lose to De La Vecchia, but he had that 30-match win streak going. But he still has a lot to prove. He does. The pros, the good things about him is, like, he's already All-American. He's already beaten some tough guys, but he came in as the cons, I guess, is like he came in as the number 3 seed in 2019, placed 6th. He came in as the number 1 seed last year, placed 3rd. So he still does have a lot to prove, whether to himself, to wrestling fans, whatever you see. Ryan Deakin he has a lot to prove, and depending on your definition of the word. But Alex Marinelli, okay, he's the 3rd guy of this bunch. Marinelli has been the number 1 seed, the most out of all these guys, 3 times. Marinelli has been the number 1 seed 3 different occasions at 165 pounds. I know, it's crazy. And he has never won the title. This could be the year that he does it, potentially. So let's talk about those years. 2018 was the number 5 seed. And that's actually was one of his best years because he made the semifinals. Then he ended up losing to Imar. And then, yeah, he did lose to Evan Wick in the consies. 2019, the following year, he was the number 1 seed that year, but lost to Micaiah Lewis in the quarters. Now, Micaiah Lewis was that breakout star that year at NCAAs. Not many people expected Micaiah to ending up beating Alex Marinelli. He ended up losing to Marsteller then in the consies and placed 7th. In 2020, that was the year that was taken from him. And in 2021, this past season, he lost to Griffith in the quarters and then ended up defaulting out of the tournament. It was a real shame. You know, I'm a Penn State guy, but I still like to see these guys. I hate seeing something like that happen. It's a real shame. The moral of the story out of Marinelli is he can get on a real roll. I mean, throughout the season, just get on a real roll. And then if he loses in the NCAAs, he kind of loses his stride. I see why, especially last year. It's a shame, but hopefully he can get that. So, yes, he's already All-American. He's already been that number 1 seed a few times, but he's always underperformed his seed. That's kind of the con about Alex Marinelli. So, who has the most to prove out of Marinelli, Deakin, and Sebastian Rivera? To me, it's Alex Marinelli. Marinelli has the most to prove. Yes, he's All-American in the past, but there's just a lot of chatter about him underperforming at the NCAAs. He needs to help out his team this year if they want to win a national title again. He's got to perform. He has a lot to prove to himself because he's somebody to me that is that national title caliber wrestler. He's just on that level, and he needs to continue getting on that role. The team is relying on him, and he needs to show that he is deserving of not just making that finals, but making it to become a national champion. Who do you think has the most to prove? To me, it's Alex Marinelli. And I say that in the best possible sense because I think that he can win a national title this year. And if you're looking for rankings for every single conference before the season gets here, you're going to want to check out this resource right here. This will take you to a page where you can download my Fanco Wrestling rankings for free. That's all 78 D1 teams, every single conference, whether you support Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, you're going to get little tidbits of information and the rankings you need to know before the season gets here. You can check that out for free right here.